dealing with a deep state of sadness, and I'm looking at the messages from the universe on how I can best work with this energy, because the more I fight it, or the more I try to fight it, then the more it will prevail over me, because that's just how it is, right? So I pulled the energy here of Nyx, the dark goddess, and the energy here is to work with the chaos that is unfolding, work with whatever sadness, and the more I think about it, I may just end up writing some poetry about it, you know, um, or just maybe listen to some music and accept it, right? And I pulled some cards early this morning from the birds, and the message is pretty much the same. Um, make each other the exception that flowers between fact and fancy, the improbable form in which a more beautiful structure of being might be found. So, in my case, I'm looking at my sadness as my divine counterpart, my mirror image that is trying to tell me something about myself. And, I'm going to make it the exception that is going to allow me to flower into beautiful structure, right, of who I am becoming in this chaos. Because, that's where the creation takes place. And then this card here, it's basically saying to allow myself to feel whatever imperfections, right? The imperfections that bring about this sadness or melancholy or just feelings of hopelessness that I might be feeling, right? It could be because of, things are impermanent. And that is the energy of chaos, the creation that was there at 1 minute and then it comes to an end, right? That's how it is. So, and that's the energy of dealing with the sadness. And if you're dealing with sadness, then my recommendation is to not fight it. Not fight it, but, whatever you do, breathe. Don't give in to the sadness that is to the point where you start harming yourself and others, right? And, even if you need to sit with your sadness, here we get this card of being in a trance, like lost in a trance of emotions, feelings that you'll never forget. Sit with the sadness and don't do anything. Set aside a couple of minutes, or if you can afford more than a couple of minutes, then do it, and just allow yourself to go off. Don't get lost while you go off, though, because that is a risk. You do have to ground yourself so that you don't get lost in that realm of oblivion. And we have the Hierophant here, which is the routine, the tradition. So in the process of journeying and trying to find the strength in this sadness, there is a need to observe and investigate the traditions that have molded you into the person that you are. Because I get a feeling that there could be something here engraved in the subconscious, right, in the dark realms of the mind, that make you feel the sadness because you feel that you're being disloyal to a certain tradition or to a certain belief system, because you're trying to adhere to this tradition because you want to be accepted or because you want to be loved in some sort of way, but deep down inside you don't totally agree with that tradition, right? And that's what it is here. Make each other the exception, the flowers between fact and fancy. So there could be like an internal disagreement that goes way, way back, right? And in your trance, you can maybe do some akashic reckonings to see where all of this is stemming from and be completely honest, but, embrace it. Don't fight it till the point that you're at complete peace with it, and, you can build a beautiful structure out of it. So lastly, Four of Coins, which is the energy of holding on. There is something that you absolutely are holding on to. And Spirit is recommending also that in this state of sadness, you detach from those things that you want to hold on to, those things that you want to be permanent. But Spirit is here telling you with the chaos energy of the goddess Nyx is that there is no permanence, there's only impermanence. And the Four of Coins is telling you that those things that you're holding on to, you have to let them go. Things can never stay the same. They have to change. And that is what you have to come to accept. So I've also been helping myself with the idea of the sadness and the change, right, with meditations on this book, How to Love Better by Young Pueblo. So there's a little part here that I want to share with you. And it's about growth, right? Because the message here is about using this sadness to propel you to growth, right? So the message here that I starred was about humility. So when you have the humility to realize that there is much for you to learn and that you can benefit greatly from stepping outside of your comfort zone, your personal evolution will come more naturally. Okay, so the energy of humility and the comfort zone, and we see that here, the comfort zone is represented by the Hierophant, okay? That is our comfort zone. And the Four of Coins here is saying is that, like, we're stuck in this comfort zone, and it takes a great deal of humility to get out of that comfort zone. A lot of times we don't get out of that comfort zone because we're used to a certain way of doing things, or we're afraid of trying new things, right? Or we're afraid of, just being disloyal in a way, right? Like feelings that you'll never forget. Whereas like there was an event or a situation that made you feel so good, and it's like you're automatically always going to look to that situation or a similar situation, right? Because that's what you know, that's tried and true. But with humility, you get out of that and you say like, okay, I'm going to take the plunge. I'm going to take the step into something new that I've never known before, that I've never experienced before, or that maybe I've avoided because I'm afraid of how it's going to make me feel, right? And that's also the energy that I was saying about, like when we try to fight the sadness, we want to avoid it and we end up feeling it hits us harder, right? So I was also here, meditating more on this card, and it was the freedom from suffering is found not in thick skin or cold reason, right? So it's not trying to make yourself feel like, yeah, I'm resilient or I've endured so much. It's about embracing your softness and your gentleness and not judging yourself, not judging the situation, and not judging others, right? Because that's just going to put more pressure and weight on the situation. And that's with the energy here about make each other the exception, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to relate to a significant other, right? Because like if you don't have a significant other, it's the other in this situation is the obstacle that you're dealing with or whatever emotion that you're dealing with, right? It's like your mirror, your twin, your other you, right? That we've lost contact with somehow, some way. And believe it or not, maybe that's the root of the sadness because, like I said, we suppress our nature in certain situations. We're trying to follow tradition to please others, right? And this is all purely an emotional response. So, there is a lot of energy here to work with, but it requires a great deal of humility. I feel that is the answer, the humility. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, you have to put yourself in situations where you're going to be belittled. It just comes down to being humble with yourself and being humble with your expectations. So when I say like being humble with your expectations, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to lower your expectations, because here you have the Hierophant where it's okay to have expectations and stick to those expectations, but you have to release the attachment to those expectations, right? Where you know that whatever the outcome regarding those expectations, whether they bring sadness or happiness, you're willing to accept it and build upon it, right? And accept that role of the flow of change throughout life. So that is the message that I have here regarding the sadness. I shared a personal experience where, I feel just states of melancholy that come upon me. And that's because I can feel like sometimes the wind just blows different, or maybe the light in the atmosphere is just different. Maybe the skies are a little more cloudy than usual. And it's just, those things affect the mood. And it could also be like ending of situations, ending of cycles that happen in life. But it's always leading to new creation and something to work with, a lesson to be learned. And this is the teacher, the Hierophant, right? The sadness is the teacher that you're desperately looking for, or that you've desperately been looking for. So stay humble and learn the lessons, and you will build upon that and come back much better and stronger. Okay? And don't ever forget, right, the good times and the bad times. So I'm going to leave this message here, and hopefully there was something here for you to resonate with, and I appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here. Goodbye.